Hello there, my lovely jewelry makers. Today's video is going to be opening the next Dollar Bead box here. So I have it in front of me already. I have my scissors ready, and let's just jump right into it. So I haven't looked at it yet, obviously. I've not opened the tape, but I'm curious what's going to be in here. So, first of all, let's start with the bag, like usual. Just kind of put that box out of the way a little bit. And oh wow, first impressions. That looks interesting. Try not to look too much because I want to have a closer look, and also then just look at the paper. So I'm just going to sort them out here, separate the colours out. So I like to just kind of separate the 3mm and 4mm from each other because that's also how they are on the list. And I'll be honest, the first thing that caught my eyes, that looks absolutely beautiful. Anyway, one thing at a time. Right, let's see. So we got the 3mm and the 4mm separated out, and I'm starting with the 3mm because they're top of the list as well. So it looks like we are starting with that specific one. Anyway, the first one, metallic magenta. So I'm assuming that's got to be this one. I'll be honest, this one jumped at me straight away as soon as I turned the bag. It's just my cup of tea, this. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love metallic coatings, metallic beads in general, in different colours, because it just gives you... It's a beautiful look in itself, but then especially if they're faceted as well, they give a lovely sparkle. And this is a lovely colour. It's not often I kind of see this, because usually it's kind of purpley one, but they're very much mixed with gold. This is kind of just pure magenta. That is really lovely. I would love to use them for something. Anyway, we then have matte medium sapphire. So that's got to surely be these. So a nice delicate blue, and the matte as well, so again a bit different. Faceted. Nice size there. And they would kind of go nicely with the magenta as well, the metallic magenta. And then we have crystal olive luster, which I'm guessing has to be these. So far they've been in order by coincidence. So again, crystal olive luster. So it's olive, it's that kind of green, olive green base colour, which is definitely a very unusual green, I think. And they're very sparkly, that's for sure. It's like there's some kind of a bit metallic coating to it, but not fully. But obviously it's that luster. It just gives a lot of sparkle, that's for sure. And the last one of the 3mm ones is matte smoky topaz, so it's got to be this one here. Again, a matte one. It's kind of a bit of a medium to light brown, I would say. Brownish colour, and then that matte just makes it kind of a little bit different. So that's the 3mm strands. Next we have the 4mm strands. So let's start with crystal pink luster AB. So it looks like these aren't in order. That's a shame. That would have been pretty cool. But anyway, these ones caught my eye straight away as well as I turned the bag along with the magenta ones. It's just something about them, that sparkle is just absolutely beautiful. So it's a crystal pink base colour, so it's kind of a clear pink, so it's not opaque. And then you have that luster AB, so the coating on top of that, you got that kind of AB partly, I would say, and it just adds an absolutely beautiful sparkle. I very much like these as well. Actually, I wonder, these two together, that looks nice. I like them. Right, that's the first one, matte light peridot. So I'm guessing it's got to be the green one. So a light green, matte as well. I like this kind of a mix of matte and regular non-matte ones, obviously, and then other coatings, whether it's AB or different lusters. Obviously metallic as well now. I do like that there's that mix, so it's not always kind of it's the same kind of thing you get, but different colours. So a nice matte one. Quite summery, that light green. And then it's the dark cyan, which is this very beautiful blue. I love these kind of blue colours. It's very deep and rich, and it is dark, but it's not kind of midnight dark, so almost black. It's still very rich in the colour, so it's very beautiful. Sparkly again because of the faceting. And then the final one, crystal citrine luster AB. So again, it has that similar kind of as the pink one. So you got the yellow base colour, but that same luster AB coating. You can see kind of very sparkly. It's partly coated with that luster coating. Very beautiful. And it just makes me think a little bit of, actually a lot, these three, very summery. So obviously that light green, very summery, then yellow, the sun, and then nice delicate pink like flowers in nature. And then obviously sparkles as well. But those are all the strands, so there's definitely some very interesting things in there that I would probably want to try and play around with a little bit. But moving on from the bag here, we've got to get into the box as well. So let's get that straight back in. Got the paperwork there. Just gonna have that ready. So we can kind of go through it and know what we've got. It feels pretty full. Interesting. And then I'm just gonna, oh, my first impressions. Anyway, try not to look too much again. I know it's a bit hard. Alright, just separating out all the bags first of all. So it's a bit easier to go through. And then start off with the strands. Try and not look too much. But let's have a look here, because it's also, again, on the paper that they are separated that way. So it makes it a little bit easier to go through. Right, so let's start from the top again. First off, we have 10mm, so fairly large beads, check fire polish, Jet AB, 20 pieces. So I'm assuming that's the first ones that I noticed in the first place. You kind of can't really not notice these, can you? Because they are, first of all, quite big, but it's just that sparkle. So the base color is black, so the jet, and then they're partly coated with AB, which is also then kind of made stronger because of the black base color. So it really emphasizes that AB coating. They're just very beautiful, and because they're large as well, it really stands out. And you get a fair few, so approximately 20 pieces, 20 beads. I love this kind of thing with metallic coating, like I said before. So they jumped out at me. It'd be nice to try and use them, but I can obviously say that about most things anyway. Anyway, that's the first one. Then we have 5mm check fire polish seafoam green. So that's got to be these ones, seems to be the only green thing. About 25 pieces, so 5mm. That's a size that I don't really see often in general. Quite nice as well, because it's quite different. It's not just like a regular green, it's quite a different green, I would say. And then again, very sparkly because of the faceting. So that's pretty nice. Very, I kind of get a, I was going to say a sea breeze green feel from it, but then the name seafoam green, so that makes sense. Anyway, then we have 6mm check glass miracle bead. Red, 32 pieces, so it's got to be these here. So quite, I would kind of call this a bit Christmas red, because it's not like a pure bright red. It's a bit on the darker side, but not like a pure dark red either. So the glass beads, miracle beads, I'm not really sure what the miracle part is, whether it's to do with the coating maybe, but 6mm is a really nice size. I use that a lot, so that'd be very useful, and that color will go with a lot of different other colors as well. Then we have 4mm check glass struck beads, topaz, 50 pieces. So it's got to be this one with the color and the size as well. 4mm is also a very useful size. So that topaz color, that kind of a bit browny, goldeny color, just pure round 4mm beads. Then we have, kind of going down in size here, 3mm check glass struck Jet AB. And I did just kind of glimpse these a little bit as well, out the corner of my eye. So, basically, if I bring back the first strand, they'll fit these perfectly. The only difference, they're almost mini version of them, the only difference is they're not faceted, but they don't have to be. So yeah, basically the black base colour, and then partly coated with that AB coating. And then you just have them in a smaller size, so be perfect to use in the same project, obviously. So very nice as well. Love my metallic coating, my AB coatings. Can never have enough sparkle in my opinion. Then we have very tiny beads, 1 by 2 millimeter Chinese crystal rondelles, and it's crystal beads, so it's a clear colour. Well, it's clear, and a fairly decent strand lengthwise. Very sparkly, so even though they're so small, they appear to be faceted, which I'm not sure how they do that, but it's impressive. And then obviously they do have that AB coating as well that really adds that sparkle. I kind of feel a little bit, if you add them with the red, that makes it even more Christmassy, because you have that nice Christmassy red in my opinion, and then these a bit like snow and ice for winter, but at the same time just lovely sparkle to go for Christmas. I think that'd be kind of nice. Could definitely do some Christmas designs with them. To be fair, it isn't that far away, is it, Christmas? And then last we have 6mm check fire polish. So it's got to be these ones, the last ones left. Matte Victorian bronze. So matte Victorian bronze, I would have personally said more of a gold, but obviously maybe because it's a different kind of bronze, it's a bit in between or something, but they're matte, so that's a bit unusual. Again, nice size, 6mm, and again metallic, so can never really go wrong with that. So those were all the strands. So I'm just going to put them out of the way, and then we'll move on to the additional items down here. Right, so let's start from the top. So first of all, we have vintage buttons, size and color varies, 3 pieces. So that sounds pretty interesting. Vintage buttons, so this looks like it's got to be these, because it's like also a mix. It says you get 3, kind of looks like there's 4 in here, but I'll just get them out. You can have a closer look, and also because it varies, so I'm guessing each box might have different ones anyway, or different ones in throughout boxes anyway. So yeah, these are definitely the buttons. So what do we have? Some pretty large ones. Let's start with the small one. So it's definitely, there's a metallic edge around it by the looks of it, with a nice kind of pattern to it. And then it looks to be, I don't think it is a stone, but it looks like it's kind of supposed to look like a stone in the middle. And get it to focus on that. So it kind of looks a bit vintage looking. And on the back it's a plastic of some sort. And it's a shank button. And then, well, it is a vintage button, so obviously it's a vintage look. We have quite unusual ones, kind of like edging all the way around. Unusual colour as well. Again, the shank button. And kind of like, it makes me want to take something and kind of glue into that little space in there, because it dips into it and kind of just add a nice touch to it. Then there's this, which is also very interesting. The very unusual shapes and designs. It feels, it's a bit more weight to it. Obviously it's larger as well. Again, the shank button on the back. I personally only really use shank buttons. I don't really use other kinds of buttons, so I think they're brilliant for clasps and things, especially for macrame bracelets. So you make a loop with macrame and then use a button like this on the other end, and then you have a clasp. So it's quite masculine, this, actually, I think. It doesn't have to be, obviously, but kind of has the shape to like a little peak in the middle. And the last one is definitely the one that stood out the most. So it's got that kind of green all the way to the back, to the shank part. And then a very unusual design at the front. So there's design all the way around the edge, but then it's kind of metallic, I would say coating, in the middle there, gold with it. So the gold and green. So it's definitely quite different, I would say. Getting some different buttons in the box. And like I said, it's something you can always use, in my opinion, for clasps. For especially bracelets, so that's quite nice, so you kind of get that option as well. So next we have 8 by 80mm ribbon charm, antique copper and silver, and it's got to be these ones. So it's actual metallic charms but shaped like ribbons. I just get some out, get one of each colour, and just kind of have a little look. So there's a little ribbon shape, the kind of typical classic ribbon shape, and then there's a little inscription on them. It says hope on both of them, and the last one as well. There was two, in this case here, there were two of the copper ones, antique copper, and one silver. So it's cute little charms, always a nice little message, I think. Nothing wrong with that. Can always use a bit of hope sometimes. And then we have 12mm check glass spiral matte jet AB. 4 pieces. So I was thinking, what is that? But then I'm thinking the spiral makes me think it's these, and because there's 4, I kind of noticed these a little bit at a glance before when I was kind of sorting the bags out from the strands, and they caught my eye because I was like, what is that? But because it's the rainbow coating, which is also something that's up my street. So they are, I assume they are beads. You got a hole, if I can try and catch that on camera. There. Got a hole going through from one side to the other, and they aren't double-sided. So the black on the back, I would say. Obviously, I would say that one is the front. So that's a bit of a shame that they're not double-sided, I think. Because that would be nice having them all the way around. So in case you wanted to do something where the bead will move around, or you can kind of use the back and the front, then it isn't an issue if you want that side to show, because it's on both sides. But it's still really nice on that side here. And they have a nice feel to them as well. Quite different shape, I will say. That's for sure. You definitely get that spiral look to it, as the name said as well. So next we then have 12x14mm check glass starburst opaque turquoise, 2 pieces. So what will that be? Opaque turquoise, will that be these maybe? Because check glass starburst, kind of the patterning on them makes me think of that kind of starburst effect. Let's have a little look. I'm thinking it must be also with the colour opaque turquoise. So I'm guessing the hole is there, yep. From one end to the other, they're kind of oval in the shape, and then obviously flat. But then they have, it's not just a pattern on them, it's actually a texture, you can feel it as well, that kind of starburst pattern. Well, obviously not a pattern, but look to it. If I can just get it to focus. So that's unusual, and a nice delicate colour with that turquoise. And then next we have 10mm, I think it's that, yeah, 10mm Chinese glass laser etched round teal metallic, 2 pieces. It's got to be these ones. I've seen similar kinds of things to these in previous boxes, with this kind of laser etched effect on some beads, and I do really like it again because it's metallic coating. Anything like that was gonna always catch my eye, and they're just very unusual as well. So it's basic rounds, and you got the hole going right there at the top, and then around the sides, you could say, of the bead you got those stripes in a way all the way around, and the stripes are then that teal metallic. So that's always nice. Nice size as well. So you definitely notice that patterning on them. Next we have, where are we? Similar thing by the looks of it. 12mm Chinese glass laser etched beryl, teal metallic, and that's 1. So that's got to be this one. Again, that teal metallic, which is a very nice colour. And then it's a barrel shaped bead, quite large, 12mm. And that hole is really large as well. So that is always a nice option to have a large hole there, so you can really use it for many more different things. And then this is what the pattern looks like. Really quite beautiful, that. Goes all the way around. And that teal metallic against the kind of more or less white background. You could say same with the other beads. It's because it's very contrasty, it definitely makes the patterning stand out a lot. Then we have 6 O's, so seed beads that must be. Check glass seed beads, crystal AB. Right, so crystal means clear, and then AB, that rainbow coating. 5 grams, and it was 6 O's, so a nice size. So not super small seed beads, but not really large ones either. So I'm just going to leave them in the bag here because there's a lot of small beads and I know where they're going to go. So nice little seed beads there. 11 O's, so that's smaller seed beads. Vintage check glass hand cut seed beads, jet, so that's going to be black. Again, 5 grams. And I'm definitely leaving these in the bag for now. So they definitely seem to have, it's a smaller size, but there were vintage check glass hand cut seed beads. There's definitely something a bit different to them. The shape wise, it's not just a normal shaped seed bead I would say. Something a bit different about them, so that's interesting. Of course, the 2 different seed beads would go nice with each other as well, black and white more or less. Always goes well. Then we have 8 by 12mm top drilled ocean jasper, 1. So we don't have loads left, so it's got to be this one. So it says top drilled. So where is that? Actually, it's right there. We can try and see that hole. So yeah, you can see top drilled, so it's not straight through that way like a bead would normally be most of the time. So you could use this as a bit of a charm or a drop of some sort, or a pendant in itself. So it's definitely a bit different. So that's the, where were we? Ocean jasper stone. And next we have silver plated ribbon clasp, lobster clasp and extension chain, 1 piece. So that sounds pretty nice to me. So it's basically a clasp with ribbon ends, which I use ribbon ends a lot myself for different mediums. It seems a bit stuck to the paper. I use it for obviously kumihimo. Kumihimo, sometimes macrame as well. Wire kumihimo. I really like these ribbon ends, and silver is my preferred finish metal in them. And this looks to be, it doesn't say the size, but it looks like it's probably about 20 mil, which is a good size. It's probably the size I use the most as well, to be honest. And it comes with the clasp and extended chain as well. So you actually have a whole clasp here. So if you make, whether it's kumihimo or something else, with anything from the box, if it's something that will fit using these ribbon ends, obviously you have them. You could also just take the extended chain and the clasp off and not use the ribbon ends, but just use them for obviously the jewelry you've done to use it as a clasp, but you also get the ribbon ends, which is really nice, and the nice ones as well. I like that little kind of patterning on them design. So that's always a plus, I think, when you get some of the findings and finishes in these boxes as well. It definitely helps, so you don't always have to have something yourself on the side. And it's quite a nice one, and silver, which is my favorite. Then almost down the list, we have top drilled Chinese crystal drop. So it's 6 by 12mm and a silver plate, so it's got to be these. Nice little, again, metallic, so you can never go wrong with that. Very sparkly because of the metallic coating there. Silver ones, and a nice teardrop shape and faceted, which is unusual for teardrop shape. Definitely adds something a bit special to it. So they could be drops or charms by themselves, or they would be a nice feature in something else. And finally, as the very last thing, we have 40mm floral bead caps. And it's antique brass or antique copper. So this looks to me like it's antique brass. Get one out, and you get 2. So obviously if you want to use it on one bead, you can use them on either side of the bead. So they're quite large, I will say. Got to be pretty large beads you use them with. Well, it doesn't have to be. You can kind of have them just sticking out, but if you want them to kind of fill it out, so you just get this little leaf design on top of a bead where the hole is. Again, a little bit of finding things. So this was everything that was in the box and the bag. So it's definitely a nice selection here. Quite a few things. Now, it's also a bit of a theme, I will say. There's quite a few metallic things, so I definitely like that. Obviously, there's the larger beads and the ones that match, and then also those ones in the bag that I really like that colour. And obviously some metallic and AB coatings on a lot of the other things. So I'm definitely very intrigued to be playing around with some of this. I'm hoping I can come up with a few things. And also, it's kind of a nice mix. It's a bit, almost, some of it is a bit summery, and some of it is kind of Christmassy. So, which I think is kind of perfect, isn't it? Because it's kind of, summer's more or less done now, and Christmas isn't really that far away. So it's a nice mix, and I'm very much looking forward to playing around with some of it. Now, if you want to see what I end up making, make sure you stay tuned. So I managed to make a few pieces, and I thought I would just show you them. Now, the very first thing that I used was a strand from the bag, and I can't really show you the strand because I'm pretty sure I used every single one of the beads. Now, it was the colour that really jumped at me the most, the bright blue. But what I ended up making was a bracelet, and it's this one here. So basically, it's a variation of the kind of classic Egyptian coil bracelet, and I thought I would just try that because I've never actually made that before. But I thought I wanted to give it a go, but then actually I thought to try and add some beads to give it some colour as well. So this is what I ended up with. I thought these beads, this colour here, would go absolutely perfect with the copper wire. I also just made the clasp on the end there, and of course also the other end, so it's completely ready to wear. Simple little bracelet like that, using that Egyptian coil technique, but just adding in the beads. And this is then what it looks like on. So you can see it fits just perfectly, and just has that nice closure with the clasp that's kind of incorporated into the bracelet, obviously using the same materials, minus the beads. So I really like how that turned out actually, and I really like, the technique itself was really nice, but I really like adding in those beads to add that pop of colour as well. Obviously in this case it's quite bright. So then the next thing I made was also a bracelet, but this one was a beaded bracelet, because I went into the box and I'd seen a bunch of the beads, and I think I also mentioned that, where I felt like they went really well together and it kind of had this Christmas feel to them. So I ended up basically picking them out and see what I could kind of think to do with them. So it was, first of all, obviously these, the large ones of the black base, but then that AB coating partly. And then also the small version basically that really easily went together. And then I thought these kind of dark red beads as well. Obviously I've only got very few left of all of these because I used the majority. And then I also thought these ones, very tiny little faceted beads that are just sparkly, all went really well together. It's almost hard to see because how few are left, but still, they went really well together, I thought, and had a Christmassy feel. So I wanted to try and do something with them. So I made a bracelet. Just push them out of the way. That looks like this. So I ended up using a basic technique. So just using those large beads in the middle as kind of the main feature. You can't really do anything but that really because of that sparkle. But then also add in the red ones along the side, so it kind of keeps that. It doesn't have to be Christmassy obviously, but we are getting to that time, so that's probably where our minds are going. And then I used the little tiny, very sparkly beads to kind of form a snake all the way along. And what I actually used the little beads for, with the AB coating, with the black ones, was for the clasp part. So I ended up making these loops, and I actually made this adjustable because I made 2 loops. I kind of thought instead of it having to be one size. And I didn't use anything else. Obviously I used my thread, my own thread and a needle, but I ended up using one of the buttons from the box as well for the clasp. And then it's actually got 2 sizes within it, which I think was kind of clever and usable, because even though it's a beaded bracelet, you can still make it adjustable. So I really like how this turned out as well. I love all the sparkle in this bracelet. It's just kind of non-stop sparkle all the way along. And like I said, it can be quite Christmassy, but it doesn't have to be. So that was the second piece that I made, also a bracelet. The final beads I picked out to use were these from the box as well. So they were the kind of, I'm pretty sure they were 6mm, and this very kind of gentle green tone and faceted as well. I kind of thought there was something quite nice and elegant about it, that colour, so I quite like them. And what I thought I would do was try to use some tools that I got recently. And I ended up making a pair of earrings. They look like this. Let me just grab onto that there. So they can hang and dang nicely from the ear. And what I've done is I've used my wire knitting spool. If you saw a video I did not very long ago of a haul where I got several different ones, I wanted to try and use them, obviously. I've been wanting to do that for a while. And then I captured these beads. It ends up appearing like they're almost floating inside of the braid, you could say. And then I turned them into a pair of earrings. And I think, again, the copper wire goes really well with this colour green. There's just something about that that's very nature-like, I think. So again, I'm quite happy with how they turned out. I definitely want to work more with those wire knitting spools as well. So those are the earrings. So these are the things that I ended up making, just a few pieces. I'm quite happy with how they all turned out, and I really like playing around with some of these materials and trying new things. So I am probably planning on making a tutorial for this Egyptian coil beaded version bracelet here, and obviously I'm looking forward to as well playing around with these wire knitting spools more as well. Very curious what else can be done with them. But I really hope you enjoyed it and you liked the pieces. Do let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.